I'm Dr. Hackey Reitman. Welcome to another episode of Exploring Different Brains. And today I'm very excited because we're going all the way out to California, Southern California. We're going to welcome Hilary Kokenda, who is the co-founder and the chief operating officer of Zavikon, which she's going to tell us all about. And I'm particularly excited about because Zavikon is where the rubber meets the road. It's about those of us with different brains getting jobs and careers. Hilary, welcome.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Well, we appreciate having you. Now, why don't you tell us about yourself and Zavikon better than I just did?
Okay. So I'll start with myself and then kind of segue into Zavikon. So I come from a very traditional corporate America background. I like to say I went to college and then the consulting bus drove up to graduation. I jumped on it and went and got that typical consulting training, did that for a few years, and then moved into business and in technology. So I worked for Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies as like an IT tech manager. I did a lot of hiring over the years. I managed a lot of teams, and didn't really know about this all of neurodiversity. And I am neurotypical myself, and just probably was ignorant, if I'm being real about that. And then I had a niece who was born, she's now 22, but she was born with a seizure disorder and resulting cerebral palsy, quite on the extreme end of the spectrum for cerebral palsy. So over the last 22 years, that the world of disability became a big part of my life. And then, now like 4 or 5 years ago, my daughter was diagnosed as neurodivergent. So she has what's called Erlin syndrome, which is one of a lesser known diagnosis. It's how her brain processes colors, and it affects her depth perception and her ability to see words and to read. So my world became bigger in that I started to understand neurodiversity. I had seen disability and the ups and downs and what's available and the needs and where there's great resources and where there's not as many great resources. I had known Rebecca Beam, Zavikon founder and CEO, for many years. In fact, she was a recruiter who had placed me at the job that I was currently at. And we were talking, I can tell you, for those of you who know Southern California, I was on the 101, stuck in traffic, driving to work. I can still picture it. I can even tell you like approximately what off-ramp I was at the 101. And she called me, and she had helped found a company called MindSpark, which was really at the forefront of the autism at work movement, where they trained autistic individuals, how to do system testing. And then instead of companies outsourcing offshore, they would outsource to MindSpark for system testers. So she had been heavily involved in that. And then when they were purchased by a German company, she ran the US operations. She was the CEO of the US operations for about 3 years. She was heavily in the space. And she told me she felt like there was a gap in the market. And that gap was that her business model was hiring or was contracting out autistic individuals, but companies actually wanted to hire them. They wanted to bring them in. They wanted to be more integrated. They wanted to improve their corporate social responsibility. They wanted to hire these individuals. And she recognized, her background in recruiting, that there wasn't a company that she knew of that filled that space. So she had come up with this idea and wanted to do it. And she was telling about me, and I'm sitting in traffic, and you know, we were in the middle of getting my daughter's diagnosis, and it was just, it all, like the perfect storm. She said, I want to do this. She said, but I don't want to do it alone. And I said, well, this would be a dream come true for me. And she said, let's do it. And here we are. So we founded Zavikon legally in 2020. Unfortunately, there were some things going on in the world that affected starting a business in 2020, a global pandemic. So I like to say we really opened our doors in 2021. So we've been around for about 2.5 years. Our mission is to place neurodivergent individuals and those with disabilities in career-oriented, meaningful jobs. The vision we have is to address the unemployment and underemployment rates for this community, which are really bad, as Hacky, I'm sure you know. Autism alone, I hear different numbers from different studies, but it's usually upwards of 80% of autistic individuals are unemployed, which is mind-boggling to me. And, it's not just a social issue, it's an economic one. If we employ only 1% more of these individuals, the GDP could get a boost of up to 25 billion. So this is something that we all have to be a part of, I believe. We all have to work to improve this issue, and it's going to benefit everybody directly and indirectly, which is why it's just so important. So as far as Zavikon goes, that is our mission. It's a little crass, but we say butts in seats. That's our mission. We do tend, because it's our background, we both come from corporate America. We have found that we have more success, more connections in kind of those a little bit more, office jobs, kind of corporate America jobs. There are other organizations out there that have been more established and do a much better job of, people that want to work in a grocery store or retail or things like we can do that. But we found that our wheelhouse is those more office type jobs. We do it in a supported manner. And this is where we've learned so much in our short 2.5 years. We have come to strongly, strongly believe that, and the Zavikon model is based on it, that it needs to be individualized and it needs to be hands-on. AI, ChatGPT, all these things are fantastic and they can enhance, but they don't take away human interaction, because it's so important, and everybody's different, and you have to have that human touch to understand what somebody needs and to help create the supportive environment where they can grow and thrive and achieve as much as they're capable of achieving with anybody, really. So we do support from, obviously we help with the job search. We support through the interview, negotiations, onboarding, and then we provide a career coach for the first 90 days of employment for acclimation. It's not a job coach who shadows and sits next to the person. It's a coach who checks in, gets ahead of any potential issues, helps them figure out communication protocols, advocates for any accommodations or success factors they might need, and lays that groundwork for the long-term success and independence.
Does the job coach also give the employer the support they need to provide the accommodations?
Absolutely. And that, yes. So that starts even farther back. So yes, we believe that it's two sides. We believe that it's not just the employee, it's the employer, and coaching them both so that they can both understand each other better and both have, both generalized and individualized tips and tricks on communication is where we have found the most success. Now, we do cater it because we understand, coming from, again, I was a hiring manager. I was in their shoes for 20 years. So I understand people get busy, they don't have time. So we do cater the cadence to the individual. So if a hiring manager says, I'll give you an hour a week, well, we take it. And, we meet with them and we just, whatever comes up, we coach, we have things that we, talk them through that we plan on, of course, but a lot of it is what's going on, what's happening, how did this work, how did that work? And just getting them, giving them a sounding board and getting them, helping them figure out how to navigate this relationship.
And you've developed some good partnerships with different organizations. You want to talk about a couple of them and how you interact with them? Like the person who introduced us, Judy Udall.
Yes. Yeah, Judy's a gem. So we've done a lot of work building community partners. So Judy Udall, she is president of the Orange County Asperger's Support Group out in Orange County, California. And we actually did a career club with her, but Rebecca, my business partner, had known her for quite a while, several years. And we had met with her, told her what we were doing, and she's been fantastic. She helps us market sometimes when we're looking for a particular talent or skill set. And then we did this career club together. She reached out to us and she said, I want to get together a group of people from the Orange County Asperger's Support Group. And, have them all be in the process of looking for a job and, build a little bit of a community and a support group where we can talk about what they're going through, what's worked, what hasn't. And then we can come in and, develop a curriculum and talk about how to search for a job, how to interview, what to do once you get the job. So we did, it was over the course, now I'm going to get it wrong, but it was like 8 to 10 months. We met once a month and it was really great. So we did that. We've also partnered with a lot of organizations out in California, like state-run organizations, all the California regional centers, Department of Rehabilitation, which goes across all states. It's called different things in different states, but Voc Rehab, Department of Rehab, depending on where you are. We will talk to anybody. We have said from the beginning, we don't have any shame. We will partner with anybody who's willing to partner with us because we firmly believe it takes a village. And none of us knows better than any of the other because, again, it's individual. And we may be doing something and maybe I'm not connecting with an individual for whatever reason. Well, shoot, maybe I can reach out to Judy and she has an idea and she connects better with that person and we can, work things together. What matters is the success of the individual. How we get there, I say we don't care. I mean, we care, but we don't care as long as someone gets the support they need to start, building their career, because career affects everything, and self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. And, it's huge.
Is my understanding correct that you're filling some roles in the Orlando area? And
Yes.
for the audience in that area, can you tell us about the positions?
Yes. So we are really excited about these positions in Orlando. It's a very, very large company. I'm not going to disclose the name on the podcast, but everybody knows the name. And they are doing some incredible work. This has been a long adventure with them. but they're doing it right, and they're being thoughtful, and they want to be a very supportive environment for this population. We're doing training with them as a whole. We're doing a whole program, and they're starting with 5 positions in the Orlando area in technology. So we're going to bring on, and I'm going to kind of, there's detailed job descriptions. So maybe at the end of this, we can tell people how to contact me if they want more information. But we've got 3 positions that are very like data oriented: data analytics, data visualization, database administration. So all things data. If anybody is interested in a position around data, we've got some amazing opportunities. It's taking data and using data to make business decisions. So it's really at the forefront of what I believe is going to be a career. I mean, there's already data scientists, there's already great careers in data, but I feel like this is an area that's doing nothing but growing. The more we become reliant on AI and data and all these things, people that understand this and can build in a career in this are in great position. So 3 positions centered around data. 1 position that is a support analyst for an application. So application support analyst, calls come in, troubleshooting, fixing outages, working with vendors. Again, a job where you can come in with without any professional experience and get that first entry-level job, foot in the door, and start building a career. And then the 5th position is somewhat similar. It's a kind of configuration manager or a configuration analyst, where you are going in doing system administration, configuring an application, and doing support. So all of these are like incredible building blocks for a career in technology. So if any of this sounds interesting, please email info@zavikon.net. And Zavikon is spelled pretty much like it sounds, Zavikon. So info@zavikon.net. Reach out to me and say I'm interested in one of the technology jobs in Florida, and we will reach back out and we will talk to you about it. We'll give you, obviously there's more details to be had, but we'll go through the details. We'll get an idea of where you may fit, and we'll talk it through, and we'll see. It's an incredible opportunity. It really is. We're just beyond excited.
Can you share a couple of your success stories at Zavikon?
Yes. So one of the things we found is that, and this is not a super controlled study or anything, but the candidates and the participants that come to us, over 80% of the individuals we work with cite the interview as their biggest barrier to employment. So we do a lot of work on the interview. We call it a supported interview. We coach interviewer and interviewee. So that's the background on this. We had an individual come to us, and he wanted to be an actuary. Brilliant mathematician, like brilliant. And he had graduated with a math degree from college. And I don't know, I'll give a little bit of a background on an actuary, because some people know what they do and some people don't, but they generally work for insurance companies. They do a lot of number crunching and algorithms, figuring out how to, essentially what our insurance is going to cost us. So there's a science to it. And people who are actuaries, there's all these exams to get certified to show that you can do this. Generally, people pass the first exam, not always, but generally, when they're in college. So if they're a math major or, you know, something in that family, usually through your college, you can get information and take the first exam. So you get that support. And then after that, they again, this is general, but they'll get into an actuarial program, and then the company that they work for will support and sponsor and help them pass subsequent exams, because there's exams that actuaries can take throughout their career. There's many, many exams. So we met this individual, and he wanted to be an actuary. He had graduated with a math degree, like I said, and he had passed his first exam, which was all great. And then he started interviewing, and interview after interview after interview, and he couldn't get past the first interview. So a testament to his grit and determination, he kept taking tests. So he would interview, and he was dedicated, and he would study for these tests on his own, and he started passing them, which is it's amazing accomplishment. When we met him, he had passed 4 exams, which is crazy. And he shortly thereafter passed a 5th exam. So we got talking to him, and he just, you know, his dream was to be this actuary. And we said, all right, well, we're going to help you realize this dream. And as we got to know him, we realized that he has some processing whereby when you're speaking with him, he will take a pause. So, and it can be a long pause. So coming from, you know, my background and having done many, many interviews, I could see where that it could, if you didn't know, it could derail an interview easily. Because, you know, if I'm interviewing somebody and they don't answer, I'm thinking, okay, well, he doesn't know the answer, or maybe I need to, you know, maybe I need to rephrase. So I would rephrase, and then the processing starts all over and makes the pause even longer, right? So we worked with him and practice, obviously, but that's just the way that he communicates. He takes pauses. We cut across almost any insurance company that we could reach across the United States. And we sent emails. We had him put together a video profile of, you know, introducing himself, talking about his dream. He did an amazing job with that. And we weren't really getting responses. And we knew that there was a particular CEO of a very large insurance company who had a son on the spectrum. So maybe you could call it a little stalkerish. We like to say we call it scrappy. But we emailed him, and then he wasn't responding to the emails. So we actually wrote a snail mail letter, like signed it, put a stamp on it, and sent it in the mail, which doesn't happen so much these days, because we're like, whatever we can do to get his attention. And then we didn't hear, and we were a little deflated. And we had taken a picture of the letter before we sent it. So I was like, you know what, let's take a picture of that. So we took a picture of the letter and sent another email and said, don't know if you got it. Well, we got a call back. We got a meeting. Rebecca met with him. He was fantastic. He brought in the chief actuary and got this gentleman an interview. So we coached both and this is what we call a supported interview. We coached not just the interviewee, but the interviewer, and said, listen, he's going to pause. Give him that beat. Let him pause. And I promise you, if you can just give him the pause, you're going to be so impressed with the answer. So they did. And he was able to get through either 2 or 3 rounds of interviews, and it makes me cry. He now is in one of the top actuarial programs in the United States. And all it took was somebody to just open their mind for a minute and allow somebody the space to take a pause. And he's going to be the best actuary they've ever had. So that's what it is. It's just, being human for a minute and understanding that we all bring different things to the table and, embracing it.
What do you find is the single biggest challenge? Just getting your foot in the door?
Our single biggest challenge is getting, for sure. We talk to a lot of people and we get a lot of positive feedback of, oh, I love what you're doing. This is so great. And almost like, pat you on the head and good job. And then they move on. So I believe that there's definitely awareness has improved, I believe, dramatically. So the 3 A's, like awareness, acceptance is coming along. And the third one is action. And it's the action where we run into that wall. People are apprehensive. There's another A, for whatever reason. They feel that they aren't knowledgeable enough and they don't feel like they would do a good job. People, worry about, unfortunately, the HR risks and, am I going to put myself in, I'm going to put myself at risk, liability wise, which is all very, very sad. But it does feel like things are improving, but we need more people like the CEO of that company to say, okay, let's just do this. And the other thing that we found is those that are taking action, sometimes, eyes bigger than my stomach sort of situation, where it's like, let's make this whole huge program. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And that's beautiful. That's fantastic. But the time that it takes to launch something like that can be years. And a lot of times what we want to say is just hire one, and we'll support, we'll train, we'll give you what you need, but hire one. And guess what happens? It starts growing organically. The big programs are fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But getting it's that action, because they want the big programs, but actually implementing it and starting it just takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Whereas just the one, and then people in other parts of the company, word gets around. This is working for you. You have this great employee. Well, I want to do it. So just inspiring people to action.
What would you say to someone out there who's looked for work, had a bad experience, they're neurodivergent,
Yeah.
and they're worried about trying again? What would you say to them?
It's hard. First, I would say that sucks. I'm sorry, because it does. And, it just does. It's hard. But, so cliche, we learn more from our failures than our successes, right? And try to take that experience and try again, and maybe try, get it. There's nothing wrong with getting help. I do talk to some individuals who feel bad about, getting extra assistance from someone like a Zavikon. There's no shame in that. I mean, everybody, it's no different than, using a family connection or a friend connection to get a job for anybody else, right? That's you're using whatever leg up you can get. And we're gonna provide some support. So, I mean, all I can say is, just as hard as it is, don't give up. There are resources out there to help. And let's kind of try to figure out what, I don't know if anything went wrong, but where things unraveled. And let's try to understand, because it's like anything, there's always two sides to a story, right? So it could have been an unsupportive environment, maybe it probably was, and maybe there are some little things, not masking, not hiding who you are, but some techniques or things that that the person can do to help themselves be more successful, because it's a two-way street always.
How is your daughter doing?
She's doing great. Erlin, so there's some really good interventions with Erlin syndrome. She wears these tinted glasses, and it really it takes away the it helps. She has depth perception when she wears well, if she's doing sports or whatever, she wears goggles. So she has depth perception now, and once we intervened with the glasses, she's caught up to her grade level. She was probably 2 to 3 years behind in reading because she wasn't able to see the words, because the words move around, and
Sure.
so she's been able to catch up with the intervention and extra help. So
That's
amazing.
great. How old is she now?
She is 12.
Great age.
Yeah.
Great age.
Yeah. So yeah, that was we're very lucky in that the intervention for Erlin syndrome is pretty straightforward.
That's great. And after I get off, I'm going to Google Erlin syndrome and learn more about it.
It's not as it's not as well known. It's not as well known. I think there are more people out there with it than have been diagnosed because it's fairly new, or a new information, new discovery about it. But definitely do Google it, but Google the images, and you can see there, it manifests differently for different people, but you can see like what they see when they try to read. But a lot of them get misdiagnosed with dyslexia, and then they do the interventions for dyslexia, but it doesn't work because it's not addressing the root cause.
One more time, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do it?
Okay. The best way is just to email our general mailbox. For any reason, if you want to partner, like I said, we have no shame. We partner with anybody who wants to partner with us at info at zavikon.net, zavikon.net. If you're interested in the technology opportunities, job opportunities in Orlando, just say it. Email info at zavikon.net and heard about jobs in Orlando. I want more information, and we will reach you. And we talk to everybody who reaches out to us. Sometimes it takes a beat for us to get around to all of our emails, but we will talk to you. We will have a human connection. Even if it's over Zoom, we will have a human connection because we believe in that. This is California. We were awarded a grant from the state of California, from the Department of Developmental Services. It's an amazing grant. And it's really helped us open doors, because what it's done is it's subsidizing the support costs for us to come into a business and help. The main target was like small to mid-sized companies who don't have diversity, equity, and inclusion budgets, but it can even be departments within larger companies where there's types of positions where they say, well, we don't have support costs for those types of positions. But we are also, so any individual, and I know you're in Florida, so I don't know how many people will be reaching here, but if someone is a California Regional Center client, they are automatically eligible to be part of this program. It subsidizes our costs, and we are also co-enrolling people in what we call a paid internship program through the state of California. And companies are able to get an individual for approximately 6 months, where the state of California covers their wages. So this has been for us, that action piece that we talked about, where inspiring people to action. Well, it's giving them a chance to kind of try before they buy for essentially little to no cost. And it's really been opening some doors. So it can be remote work. So if a company is outside of California and they're willing to let somebody be in California and work 100% remote, they can also take advantage of this.
Well, Hilary Kokenda, the organization is Zavikon. You do so much for so many, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here at Exploring Different Brains, and we hope you'll return.
I would love to. That would be great. Thank you for having me.
Exploring Different Brains is a production of Different Brains. Visit us at differentbrains.org.